strange history.
Rose, no!
How many are there? Call them all, Rose.
Who Talking Who? I'm Rob,
I'm Casey.
and we're going to be talking about episode 8, Father's Day. At the very beginning of this episode, you see Rose as a little girl. Her mom's trying to explain to her what happened to her father, how he passed away, and gets into a little bit of the detail, how he was running late to go somewhere, go to a wedding, and he hopped out of the car and got hit by someone that they don't know at that time, and it was considered a hit and run. Nobody ever knew what happened, and her dad died alone. That's how the episode starts.
Yeah, it started out pretty sad,
Yeah,
but it's nice background though into who Rose is.
yeah. As well as I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yeah, you'll see how you get one version of it at the beginning, and then we'll cover another version of it at the end. how it was explained to Rose as a young child of what happened to her father. So, so even though they showed Rose and her mom Jackie talking when she was a little girl, then it went to Rose and the doctor, and she was basically telling the doctor that story and was asking if there was any way that she could see her father so he didn't have to die alone, because he died all alone and she didn't want him to be alone when he passed away. And
Right.
she was asking if it was against the rules. That's a good point there. And he's like, no, I can do anything. And he was just concerned about how it will affect Rose when she saw her father. And so they went back in time when the day that her dad died, and of course she makes all this comments about how she thought it would be such a bad day, outside and everything, but it's just a normal nice day. And then they saw what happened. Rose froze. She didn't get there in time to comfort him as he passed when he got hit by the car, the hit and run. And she asked if she could go back and if they could go back and do it one more time. You want to take it from there?
Yeah, which is a little tricky because they can't cross paths with Rose and Doctor from however many minutes before. So yeah. So far, I mean, you're spot on with what's going on, and not to get too into me, but I mean, this month will be 30 years since my dad passed.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of.
I would love to be able to see him at least one more time,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really how the story is. I like how this is all set up.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was so good.
I do like the warning about the times, how they can't cross streams like that.
Causes like an anomaly type of deal.
Right. And they're back for the second time to watch it. What happens?
She's waiting. She sees him get out of the car, and she just can't see him die. And she takes off running Doctor yells, "Wait!" As she passes the other Rose and Doctor, they dissipate. They just
Yeah, I think
disappear.
so.
Right after she passes them, they disappear, and she tackles her father out of the way of the vehicle so he's not dead. And they have a little conversation, her and her father, and she's like, "Oh, I saved you," and she's like, "That guy was gonna kill you." Uh, that whole interaction, and I think they did it on purpose, maybe. And it was, I won't say brilliant, but it was kind of brilliant with the way she was talking and acting, her verbiage, and "he was gonna kill you" and all that kind of stuff sounded so much like Jackie talking. It was almost like they wanted you to see how much she was like her mother, which would then kind of play into like the father thinking like almost like a deja vu type of feeling, like I know this person but I don't know this person. It's like
Right.
I'm so comfortable with this person, like I've known them all my life. And I think she, I think her delivery on the way that she spoke and everything, I mean, it still sounded like Rose and was Rose, but in that moment I was like, that's Jackie, that sounds just like Jackie, with something she would say.
You know,
They was gonna kill you.
I love Jackie. I think she's an underrated character.
Yeah, she's quite the fiery one, especially in this episode. So,
Yeah.
excuse me.
I mean, so
But
far, this many episodes in, she's underrated. Mickey's
mhm,
underrated.
yeah, and the doctor was standing there at the corner, and you could tell that he was not happy with what happened.
No,
So I think after that, mm, like he said something about, oh, she knew about the wedding that he was going to go to, and they talked about that, and she asked if it was so and so's wedding. He said, "Yeah, are you going?" She said that they were going. He asked if they needed a ride, but they went by her house, their house, uh, on the way to the wedding. So they stopped by her home when he was still alive, and you could still see that the doctor's fuming, and you could tell that she was doing the whole if I keep talking, he's not gonna bring it up, right? She's like, "Oh, look over here's the trophy. Oh, look over here the drinks that he used to sell. Oh, look over here the yeah." Kept trying to keep the conversation from going to where she knew that it was probably gonna go, because she knew
yeah,
she was in trouble. But the doctor was not happy. Called her ignorant ape or something like that. He brought another ignorant ape, and they got into it, and he left.
also, I don't know if it was at this point in the show, but he brought up the fact that he told her when they first decided to run off, they can go anywhere in the galaxy. She still didn't go, but once he mentioned time,
Yeah,
go anywhere
time
in time,
machine.
that's when she ran there. So he
Yeah,
was thinking she had this plan the whole time.
that's right. That is during their little argument there, and she's like, "No, I didn't have this planned." So, but yeah, he left. He asked for the TARDIS key back, and of course, she's like, "You'll come running back" or something like it. Uh, and naturally, they had to throw in the whole the dad saying, "You got boyfriend troubles." And she's like, "Why does everybody think we're a couple?" But anyway, Doctor, I can't remember if those two talked some more or what was going on, but Doctor was going back to TARDIS, and I think it showed him and her showing up at the wedding together, and that's when you saw Jackie.
Who was not happy to see him with her.
No, he was not. Made mention of something that happened to him before, like in some coat closet, coat
Yeah.
check or something, and it fell down, and he's like,
So
she
I think
saved.
now Rose is seeing he's not the saint that she was
Yeah,
always told he was.
yeah. Even though I don't think it was so much that he was a bad guy.
No.
He just wasn't. Uh,
Father of the Year.
he just wasn't like
Husband of the Year.
a reliable guy. He always had these ideas in his head. He was an idealist, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
A dreamer. It's like, oh, I'm gonna invent this. I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna make that. We can make some money. He had all these ideas in his head,
Big
but
dreams.
but he would never accomplish anything. So he wasn't that perfect mentor, maybe that she thought that he was going to be, the smartest guy out there and all this kind of stuff.
I mean,
But
right there's a life lesson. Nobody's perfect.
nah. But it's during this time period, actually, I think it was to go back, I think it was right after she had saved her dad and stuff. You don't really see what it is. You just see like through something's eyes attacking people.
Yeah. I forget the
But
name of him. It was like Spectral or
that
something to
they
do with
never
time.
that
Chrono.
they never say it in this episode, and it bugged me. So I had to look it up. I cheated, and they said something about time reapers. I think it's
Okay,
time
yeah, that makes sense.
reapers. I think
Yeah.
there's a time reapers. They never say it at all in this episode. And I went back and I looked at it again. I was like, did they not name them in this episode? and I looked it up and was like, they are not mentioned. He described what they are and what they do, and they keep calling them creature, but not once are they called the Reapers or whatever in this episode. So I thought that was kind of weird that they never actually called out the name. I don't know if there was maybe there was some kind of legality thing where they weren't allowed to use that name yet, outside of the, how there's sticky tape on some of that stuff. Somebody might have been like, no, that's my name. You have to pay me so much if you're going to use that. I invented the Time Reapers. They're mine type of deal, right? But anyway, you kind of see that thing attacking people. The doctor opens first I guess we should talk about the interaction between Rose and Jackie there in the beginning. Like you said, she was not happy, and he's like, she saved my life, and she's like, oh, is that what you're doing now, or something like that? And he's like, well, how dumb do you think I think it was at this point where he's like, well, how dumb would I have to be doing something? Basically, the short of it was, why am I going to cheat on you with this young girl and then bring her to the wedding with me? Yeah, basically. And Rose just kept staring and staring, and Jackie was not happy. He's like, what are you looking at? Basically, she's like, your hair. I've never seen it like, starting to say she never saw it like that, but then it's beautiful or something like that. Yeah. So, and it's right around that time. It keeps going back and forth. You see the doctor walking to the TARDIS, and it goes to all those the kids and the moms or whatever on the playground, and kid swings and mom disappears, and
Yeah.
then the other mom disappears. That one kid's looking around, and all of a sudden everybody just disappears from the playground. He's like, I'm out of here. Jumps up and takes off running.
Do you know who that kid was?
I
I think they explain it later on, but I think it was Mickey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would be funny. Yeah, that would be kind
Yeah.
of. Is he that much older than her? Because that's weird. Because that kid was like 5 years old,
Yeah.
7 years old. Looks like. So I didn't think.
5 year difference is not that bad, right?
Well, considering, I
She
I
was
think I'm
19. She was 19 in the
yeah.
first episode, which would make him like 24, 25 or something.
Yeah. That's probably That's about the difference for me. I think too.
Yeah.
My wife will be 30 this year, so 22 difference there. So they got me beat, I guess. uh, anyway, back to he gets to the TARDIS and he opens it up, and it's just a regular phone booth. So he knows that something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so he turns around, starts running towards wherever Rose is at. And then I think, I don't remember who gets there first. I think he gets there right before the kid gets there, because then that thing flies in and eats people, and they're all running into the church. So he comes running. I mean, she thinks she gets this big smile on her face, like, yeah, I knew he'd come back, And he's like, get in the, telling her, get in the church. And that kid runs through saying something about aliens. And they're like, huh? And then that's kind of the first time you actually see the creature. They never say the name in this episode, but we know it's the Reaper, Time Reapers or whatever. And he snatched up a couple people, chewing on them, swallowing them up. And then they all kind of run inside the church. And he says something about the older the structure, the stronger it is, to keep the Time Reapers out. So they all ran into the church now. So you want to take it for a while?
See, at this point, maybe Rose is figuring it out, but the doctor explains why this is happening, because someone's alive who should not be, and it's changing time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some funny interactions between, like, the father of the groom and talking about the families not getting along, or just I don't know, just some typical interactions in a not typical time. Everybody sees the Reapers, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but at this point, does Rose see Rose?
Rose kind of saw Rose outside, right? Jackie was holding her.
Maybe, yeah.
And because after she said something about the hair, and then she's like, "Is that baby? Yeah, that's your baby?" And she's like, well, yeah, looking at her like, of course it's my baby. Are you stupid? Yeah. I think that happened outside the church before they all went into the church. But I honestly, top of
Yeah.
my head, don't remember. Excuse me.
It has been a few weeks since we watched the episode, so I know that the doctor told Rose not to touch Rose.
Yeah.
Because it'll have some consequences. And at some point, he
Yeah.
takes a TARDIS key and he starts to create the TARDIS in there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's after. I think that's a little bit later because they still have their disagreements, and she's like, "Is this all my fault?" That this whole time, something that we forgot, or I forgot. So we need to take a step back for a minute. On the way to the wedding, that car that hit her dad that killed him keeps appearing and disappearing, but it almost hit them while they were driving there, and she yells out, "Dad," in the car.
Yeah. It's like
And
time trying to correct itself.
yeah, but she also called him dad, so that was his first like, why'd she call me dad?
Yeah.
And he kind of kept that one in at that time. So you kind of we needed to mention that for everything else that starts to happen in the church beyond that. So I forgot to mention that earlier because that happened before they got there, where she called him dad. They almost got hit by that car because, as you said, it's trying to correct itself. So
Yeah.
anyway, they're in the church and they did have their argument and stuff like that. And she was asking if it's her fault and all that, and she was going to touch the baby, and that, like you said, he's like, you can't touch her, and I don't remember if it's at that time he's like, you're stupid, or she's like, I'm not stupid or something. But there was also a time where she's like, well, I can't do anything right, can I? And he's like, so since you asked, no, you can't. Because he was still so mad. But uh,
But you gotta figure that the doctor at this point would feel used, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
and you can't really
he's got
blame him for that.
no, and he's got 900 years of experience of what you
Yeah,
can and cannot do, and she just all willy nilly changed time.
yeah. Which she mentions, oh, if I had known, but um, anyway, as you said, a lot of the interaction of the people in the church was just like basic things, and one thing I liked about this episode is the biggest, probably not connected to the story, but the the hidden message that they wanted to put out is when he had the interaction with the couple that was going to get married, where he kind of stopped what he was doing when they asked if he could save him, and he said, well, tell me about yourself,
Yeah,
because they're like, we're not important, and he's like, the
everybody's
ever
important.
the every the everyday person is actually the most important thing in the world. I mean, the everyday average person, that's what makes the world go around. It's kind of their little hidden
And
message in there that everybody's important, no matter how small. And I think that as well was hidden in there when she's like, well, it's just my dad. He's not going to be a world leader or anything like that. And he made mention, you know, but there's somebody alive in the world, an ordinary person that should not be there. So his interactions, he didn't say this, but I gathered he's like, you know, all his interactions, every single person that he runs into, talks to, or whatever, their lives are going to be different because they met this person that's not supposed to be alive.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I kind of liked how they threw that in there to be like, hey, if don't ever think that you're not important and you don't mean anything because every single person touches somebody else. So
And that's one of the wonderful things about Doctor Who. They always got these little stories within stories.
yeah,
And for anybody who feels like they don't matter, right here tells you everybody matters.
yeah,
And
even
I
the
think that's
smallest
awesome.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought the way they scripted that was really good. And he's like, oh wow, 2 a.m, ride in the cab. I never had that.
Right.
You guys are awesome. You got to have that. So, which is basically everyday normal life for a lot of people. I don't know. I was at the club and girl needed a ride home. We gave each other a phone number. Type of deal. And he's like, I never had that chance. Like that's never been my life. So
Right.
your
Yeah.
guys' life, I've been everywhere, seen all kinds of things, but it was almost like an envious longing that, he's never had a real life. It's always been
Yeah.
about being a Time Lord. Yeah.
It just goes back to where he's got the ability to make everyone feel important.
Yeah. Yeah.
His character has seen so much through so many years that
And so
I mean
many places.
yeah, it comes off, I think, honest. I don't know if it's because I've seen everything that's available from 63 on,
Yeah.
but this doctor makes me feel like I'm so glad he was the first doctor I watched, because I don't know
Yeah.
if I would have continued if I would have just started with. But
With
since
the
I
old one.
started with 9, I really appreciated 1, 2, 3, all of them.
Yeah, I get that. So, but anyway, I wanted to throw that in there because I liked how
Yeah, it was great.
they put that in there because it's something that even me sometimes I need to hear. Yeah, because
Yeah,
we get wrapped up in own our own head sometimes. So and it shouldn't take a show like Doctor Who to bring that. It's kind of funny because it's so far away from being down to earth,
yeah,
but they throw some stuff in there from time to time that brings you back down to earth. You're like, yeah, I need to think
yeah.
about that on myself too. So it's funny,
Yeah, I
but
mean, it's great writing, great acting. It's the story was I thought relatable.
yeah, definitely relatable because there's been a lot of people, like you mentioned, uh, that have lost people that they would love to be able to, go back in time and see that person one more time, even if they didn't know that's who it was.
Yeah,
Like me from the future or something. Just to go back and have that one more interaction. But they continued to talk, and she went off with her father a couple times, and he kept.
they started to figure it out.
Yeah, you could tell that he was figuring it out, and even I think the doctor even knew that her dad was kind of a smart guy and was figuring it out because he saw the car outside. The dad saw the car outside, and he's like, I think he mentioned like, oh, what was that or what is that? And he's like, don't worry about it, or something to the effect like,
Something to that. Yeah,
I'm going to take care of everything. Don't worry about it. So.
tries to anyway. Yeah,
But going back to what you were saying about the TARDIS, after all these little conversations and Rose and her dad had a couple conversations, where he's, I think he kind of figured out who she was by this point in time. I don't remember if the trying to create the TARDIS happened first or after they had their conversation where she basically let him know, yeah, I'm Rose from the future. But
I think simultaneously, because it took a while for the TARDIS to materialize. So I think it was going on
it's
at the same time.
when he forgave, when the Doctor finally forgave Rose, she went to hug him. She got burnt by the key because she felt something hot in his jacket.
Yeah.
So when he's like, which one thing I didn't like, he's like, all right, I'm sorry. He shouldn't have apologized. He didn't have anything to be sorry about. So he should have never said it. I mean, she said it too after that. I was like, what you apologizing for? You didn't do anything. I was like, I said, you're in the right. You have every right to be angry. But he's like, I'm sorry, I'd never leave you or whatever. But he shouldn't apologize. He should have just said, I'd never leave you. And then maybe, sorry, I called you a ignorant monkey. Yeah, something like
Even though
that.
she was.
But they gave each other a hug, and then she jumped back. She's like, what was that? Something's burning. And he like reached in, and the TARDIS key was glowing like gold, bright gold or something. It was hot to the touch, and he dropped it on the floor. Remember? And then he's like, "Oh, it's showing us that it's still connected to the TARDIS. I can rebuild it." And then from that big old massive old-fashioned 80s military phone looking thing. Yeah, I think they took the battery out of that, and he used his screwdriver.
Sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I've got one now.
Nice. So, pardon me, the longest weather. So he used that and stuck it basically into thin air. And told everybody, don't touch the key. You touch the key, zap. So then he went off to do something else. Honestly, at this point in time, I don't remember too much. I know that, they had the whole emotional scene with Rose and her father, and she was crying, and they hugging each other. And
that didn't make Jackie happy.
No. And she's like, the end of the world, and you run off with the youngest blonde or something like that, right?
He tries to explain to her that it's their daughter at one point.
Yeah.
I might be jumping closer to the end, but honestly, at this point, there's just a bunch of conversations going on.
I completely agree.
I don't remember.
I think all the important parts and key points have already been said at this time. The dad knows that Rose is Rose from the future. He knows that something's going on. He's not quite sure. He's pretty much figured out that it's because of him that all this is going on, because he's not supposed to be alive. He tries to get her to tell him who he is in the future, and he's like, nah, that's not me. So he's kind of figuring out that ripple in time, the thing that happened is because he didn't get hit by that car, because he still keeps seeing that car appearing and disappearing. So it's when they're all sitting in the church, the father's in the back, Rose and the doctor sitting together, and Jackie's fuming, sitting up above somewhere, and she keeps looking back, anger. And Rose and her dad's talking, and he says something to Rose like, "Well, I'm your father." That's you know, and one of the funniest things, Jackie's like, "You're her dad." Does something about, what were you, 12? That's disgusting. I was like, oh, that's right. He's like, no, it's Rose. It's our Rose. And at that time, the doctor had walked off to go check on the TARDIS, I believe, because Jackie started to hand Rose as a baby. And the doctor's like, no. And as soon as they touched each other, it opened the gate, and one of the big, big Reapers came inside, and the doctor told everybody to get behind him. He stood
Because
out
he
in
was the
front of
oldest thing.
everybody. Yeah. He's like, I'm the oldest thing here. Spread his arms out. And the Time Reaper came and killed the doctor. The doctor was officially dead at that point,
Yeah.
or lost in
So,
time. I would say more lost in time. And then the TARDIS key dropped and went completely cold. No
and
connection to him and the TARDIS.
Pete,
Mm-hmm.
Rose's dad, figures out how to stop all this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And uh, classic, he's going to sacrifice himself for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, he does not die alone.
Yes. And they tried to stop him, but he's like, yeah, your doctor friend was in charge, but I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. This is the only way to do it. They finally convinced Jackie that Rose was Rose. So he gets all ready to go, gets ready to go outside. A lot of the details here towards the end aren't really needed, as opposed to he got ready. He said this is the only way.
Yeah.
He went outside when the Time Reapers were getting ready to chase him down. He saw the car appear, so he ran to the car where he was supposed to be. Just stood out in front of him and closed his eyes, and car hit him. As soon as the car hit him, the doctor reappeared by Rose, and he's like, go to him. And she ran, and she went out, and yeah,
I believe at this point, everybody who was taken came back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody was starting to reappear.
And the doctor told Rose, go to him so he doesn't have to die alone. And it was a solid moment. I liked it.
Yeah.
So later on, and you can stop me if I'm going too far.
No,
Rose, Jackie is talking about how there was a mysterious, no name, doesn't know this. It was a blonde stranger who was with the dad as a young. So maybe she really didn't think that was Rose.
Well, I took it as, since time corrected itself, their interactions were erased.
Yeah.
Was erased from their memory, because once time was corrected, none of that would have ever happened at the church, so they would have never met. So when
that makes sense.
When time was corrected, then she never met Rose, because it went back to the way it was supposed to be. And that was before they went into the church and they all had that interaction, because nobody knew what happened. Because she also explains, like, nobody knew why your dad ran out. He just ran out in the street, right? So she had mentioned that too, which is why I mentioned that there at the beginning, that version, because now the version of the story was, you know,
Blind stranger.
and well, and it wasn't a hit and run anymore. It was a
Right. The guy's
young kid. He stopped the car. It was your dad just jumped out in front of the car. Nobody knows why.
accidents
Young,
happen kind of thing.
yeah, the young kid stayed there until the police came. Uh, and they said that some blonde girl stayed there with him and held his hand, and nobody. She's like, she still doesn't know. Nobody ever knew who that girl was that stayed with him when he died. So my thought, my thought was, it wasn't that she didn't really believe it. I was just thinking.
Right.
He
Yeah.
said
No,
something. He said
it makes
something about
sense.
correcting time. So if they corrected time, they really never met. Is the way I took it. Is because she would have never been inside the church with everybody if time was correct.
Right.
They were just there long enough for her to be able to hold his hand and comfort him. Time did change a little bit, still didn't correct fully because the way her dad died, as opposed to, know, but I guess this part of it changed just enough to where it didn't affect time because first it was a hit and run and nobody was around. And then at the very end, though, he stepped in front of a car. It was a young kid, and he stayed till the police got there. So there was still a little change in time, but it wasn't it wasn't a strong enough change like an extra person alive that wasn't supposed to be. So I I took that as you can make sometimes you can make small changes in time and everything will work out to be okay. But if you try to change time drastically, like someone who should be dead is now alive, uh, then that's gonna tear the fabric of time or whatever.
Right.
So that's the way I took it. But
No, makes sense. Yeah.
so that
So,
that's pretty much about how it
yeah,
ended.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great episode.
I
I
I,
wouldn't say
I
it
did
was
too.
the best episode of the season, but it was pretty good.
It was really good. I liked it. I think what made me like it and enjoy it even more is the fact that I it followed up what I felt was the worst episode of the season, like the long game
Yeah.
wasn't my. Not saying that it was horrid. We talked about that in the last video, but uh, to follow up that episode with this episode made this episode seem even better because this was a really good episode. And since I wasn't the biggest fan of the last episode, it made this one feel, you know,
Well,
even better.
just wait till we get to the next two episodes. They are my
Yeah.
favorite two of the season.
Mm.
It's a nice
I've seen.
two-parter.
Uh huh. I did start. I did start to watch uh, the Empty Child. That's the next episode. So that's the one that I'm currently watching. So we can give it a review. So
So,
it's pretty neat so far, but we won't get into that.
right, I just want to know if you've met Captain Jack yet.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know everything about him yet or anything like that, but I saw him. Uh, Not to get into the next episode, it's not really spoiler or anything, but I saw up to the point where he's like uh he zoomed in on Rose's butt. that's about as far as I got. He's like, "Oh yeah," and zoomed in on her butt. And I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be interesting
Yeah,
character."
he's a great character. Honestly, he's going to be. I'm not sure. I think it's in March. I could be wrong,
Excuse me.
but he's going to be at Lexington Comic Con, and I'm thinking about going just to get an autograph picture with them. Something from my Doctor Who shelves. I don't have any autographs or pictures with people yet. So I might start with him. There's a couple other people that you don't know about yet that's going to be there. But yeah, I'm definitely thinking about going to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I'm giving this the 1 through 5 TARDIS, I would give this a strong 4.
Yeah. I'd say 4.3, 4.4. I really enjoyed this episode. I like how it focused on, like, the focus of this episode was the Doctor and Rose, and I like it when the story is more Doctor Rose focused a lot of times, like it, because I mean I know every episode does, but some episodes are kind of all over the place because they've got so much that they have to get to.
Right.
But it's like almost every scene was Doctor and Rose and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that, and I really like these. I really like these creatures, those Time Reapers. I need to get a
Yeah.
Time Reaper poster or something.
I,
I like those.
you know,
I like the Time Reapers.
they are cool, but I cannot wait until we get into like I don't want to say like the meat potatoes of the
Yeah.
villains of Doctor Who, but Daleks, Cybermen, Weeping Angels, and I cannot wait till you meet these guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet the
Sontarans.
Weeping. I really want to. I can't wait to meet the Weeping Angels because I think they look cool already. Obviously,
Oh,
I even
yeah.
bought a mug and I don't even know who they are yet. I got a Weeping Angel T-shirt.
They're great. They're great villains, I guess you can call them that. How they kill is so crazy.
Yeah.
It's only in
Well,
Doctor Who, I think, could people think up something like this.
I think I gave myself a spoiler because this coffee mug, when, like, you can see the Weeping Angel there, right?
Uh-huh.
When this mug gets hot, which it's not right now, all these headstones that are solid black, they get patterns, designs, and one of them's got like an angel head in it. And this angel here turns completely white and kind of bright, like it's emulating white. And I'm thinking, and it says don't blink. So I'm thinking, did I give myself a spoiler? Those weeping angels, they like turn bright white, and somebody closes their eyes, and next thing you know, they're on them. Yeah, so I don't know.
I can't wait till we get to Blink or Don't Blink. That is an amazing episode, and it will be so fun to do. Maybe I don't know. Can't do that. I was gonna say maybe we watch it to the side. Maybe record together. You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll think of something with special episodes.
What? Yeah. What? We should choose like maybe one or two episodes a season to actually watch it together. Maybe one episode a season. We can record while we're watching it, and we'll watch it together. So have one live episode.
Yeah. Well, I think now that we're rambling, we can let
Yeah, we
people
are.
go, and we can talk about after this. We can talk about what we want to do going forward.
Yeah. Yep. We can do that. So
We
if you,
appreciate anybody who watches. We hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it. Like we said in the past, we've been friends for a long time, and honestly, this is the only time we really get to spend with each other because of family and
yeah,
work. So
hmm
I hope you see the excitement we have, and we hope you have it too.
yeah, yeah. This will be it'll be 40 years this year that we've known each other. So that's
We
a
haven't been
really,
friends 40 years, but we've known each other 40 years. I'd say about
yeah,
38 years we've been friends.
mhm, yeah. Off and on, lost track there 2 or 3 times throughout the years because life, and I moved away a little bit. I was bouncing around. He was bouncing around. Not really. You pretty much stayed put. I was always all over the central region of our state. But anyway, like
We
Casey
will hope.
said, thanks for watching. And if you like it, share,
Yeah, throw a
subscribe.
like. Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
we will see you sooner rather than later this time.
Yeah. Check out the Instagram. And I am working on audio only for Spotify. So once I get that up and going as well, I'll create a short with all the other media platforms that we got going on. So if somebody wants to check that out, we'll do that. All right. See you
Take
later.
care, everybody.